Welcome to another video, which a lot of viewers have requested, but as Endwalker is still super early, this video is hard to pull off, yet I will try my best to do it. So today, let us talk about secondary or substats for each job and which you should meld into your recent gear or that gear coming in 2 weeks. First of all, these values are still not completely tested, but according to Akamorning and the balance, the usual conditions and data should be valid. However, take all of this with a grain of salt and let us talk more about the individual melds and stat distributions for each job affected by Endwalker job changes. But let me start with a short explanation of what each stat does and what might lead you to favor one over the other in the first place. Where weapon damage takes the most important position, significantly affecting all damage dealt being proportional to item level, while main stats like strength, dexterity, intelligence and mind affect overall base damage as well, with a fixed alignment to each roll. Note that none of these stats can be melded through materia, and stamina is basically just forming your hit points pool. And of course these scale with item level like all stats do, and in general you will find higher stats on item pieces like legs and chest armor and weapon than hands, helm and boots, where accessories come in last. And as a rule of thumb, never sacrifice too much of these stats, especially weapon damage, in favor of substats, which leads to a certain best in slot set for each job, created from the best token gear combined with savage raid gear, but more to that in later patches. Okay, when looking at substats, these might not be much of a difference for some jobs, while on others, having a maxed out full stat on one of your items of those stats that you don't need may reduce your damage kinda significantly. And as materia prices are astronomical right now, making the right choice is mandatory to not waste tons of gil in that aspect. So let us talk about the recommended priority baseline that can be applied to each job, except I will say the opposite. Starting with critical hit, that does affect your critical chance as well as critical damage and will always be found on that gear that is supposed to form your best in slot gear. So Square kinda gives us a slight hint which stat might be more beneficial than others are. And this does apply in Endwalker as well. Even when other stats are stronger when the overall stat values are very low, due to crit increasing its power progressively, the more you can stack of it, it is a no-brainer, and only if you're not affected by any form of crit amplifier raid buffs like battle litany, close position, etc., you might see gains from direct hit or determination. There is one exception though, for example some black mage gear sets and builds prefer going wild on spell speed, leading to a kinda low critical hit value that would fall short against determination and direct hit, so in that case you should avoid critical hit. And in contrast to direct hit, it can also be used with things like inner release because it increases critical damage on top of the chance of performing critical hits, which stacks nicely with guaranteed criticals like reassemble, inner chaos, starfall dance or the whole inner release stance. But this leads us to the second best choice for stats, and also the highest controversy which is being dealt with these stats due to some issues for jobs like warrior, machinist and even dancer now. Determination is the carefree option, and I already heard from my well-trusted hardcore raiders that I could see improvements when stacking determination over direct hit. Yes, they changed direct hit in Endwalker, but the exact math behind it is still a mystery Square likes to keep for themselves. However, spell speed or skill speed that do fasten up recast timers for your attacks and spells and sometimes even decrease cooldowns for certain abilities, most jobs really don't see good benefits for going after skill or spell speed, except if you're facing very limited time frames for buffs like the Dark Knight's Blood weapon, which actually is a shame and should have been solved by Square in the first place, and of course the Black Mage that can utilize a whole gear set of spell speed. Nonetheless, what might be the end on the substat line for DPS jobs, there are tenacity for tanks and piety for healers, the first also granting a very little defensive attribute and a slight boost to personal damage, but should mostly be avoided due to weak scaling, but it can offer advantages over direct hit for some jobs. Piety on the other hand used to be the stat for keeping your MP alive, but as there are so many other mechanics linked to your skills, spells and roll commands that will help you in a much more efficient way, healers might want to avoid this stat, unless they really suffer from MP issues and see no other way than to get a comfortable benefit from stacking piety. But overall, avoid this stat if not needed, which might be difficult because Square packs insane amounts of this stat onto healer gear for no reason, like a caring mom wanting her daughter to not run short on clothing in winter. For individual jobs, let us start with tanks, where things are a bit more unusual. The Dark Knight, for example, really is a tough choice, having required a certain skill speed value to pack 5 GCDs into its Delirium and Blood weapon window in Shadowbringers. But now Delirium uses fixed stacks instead of a time frame, while Blood Weapon stays the same like it was before Endwalker. So in favor of the 10 blood gauge, some skill speed to make 5 GCDs fit into the Blood Weapon window might turn out as a DPS gain, but after that stick with crit over determination, over direct hit and skill speed as low as possible. Paladin and Gunbreaker, however, use very powerful buffs that increase their damage significantly, so here you might want to reach a GCD speed with which you're comfortable and then follow onto crit over determination, over or equal direct hit. But more info on my job guys coming soon. The Warrior on the other hand is an easy choice, not having any advantage from direct hit during its most crucial burst window, and as they have changed in a release to work with stacks rather than time frames, a set minimum skill speed is not required and you can easily go for crit over determination, over tenacity and keep direct hit and skill speed as low as possible. When talking about healer jobs, overall direct hit is stronger than determination for offensive spells, but has no benefit to healing output, and as they have buffed determination in Endwalker, you might want to favor determination over direct hit. But I'm not completely sure what Ak Morning or the balance means with spell speed to comfort on healer. It might really be my lack of healing experience because I'm no healer main and just did some savage runs as white mage very occasionally, but I never faced a situation that the lack of spell speed could have saved someone from dying or the rate from wiping, so overall I would go for critical hit as the prime evil, followed by determination, direct hit only if you're concerned about really strong DPS output, and then spell speed favored over piety, except you're really struggling with MP and cannot find other solutions to help you out. On melee jobs, it kinda works in the same way. Each rotation might benefit from different speed or GCD tiers, but as we don't have sufficient gear and values to test this out properly, I would recommend to go for crit over dead, over direct hit, and then take skill speed last. However, item level is still of relevance and you might not have many options anyway, so go for item level and weapon damage for now, and I will let you know if certain speed tiers are worth stacking skill speed for. The Samurai skill speed ranged from the balance just as an example of how it could work. On the ranged physical roster, we can follow a tier of how much do I hate direct hit, but not as much as skill speed. Starting with the Machinist that really hates direct hit, due to Reassemble that now also has 2 stacks making at least 2 powerful attacks guaranteed direct hits, where this stat is wasted on, but overall it might be still more useful than skill speed because of possibly bad rotational alignments and timings with high skill speed values. So try to avoid it and favor weapon damage like on all jobs basically, then item level, critical hit, followed by determination, followed by direct hit, and then followed by skill speed. The Dancer however hates direct hit as well, but not as much as the Machinist due to its new level 90 signature ability Starfall Dance that is also a guaranteed direct hit, wasting this stat on the skill while gaining extra benefits from crit if those old calculations stay true. So critical hit over determination, over direct hit, over skill speed. Surely the same logic applies to the Bard, but here you might favor item level and weapon damage every time and then go down the path to critical hit, determination equal to direct hit, followed by skill speed. Last but not least, caster jobs, where Summoner and Red Mage are falling under the standard definition for substats, but personally I feel that spell speed is even less powerful on these two than it already is on other jobs, and as I have tested this out myself quite a while now, I would actually recommend to favor items without any spell speed on them, even when you're losing 10 item levels for example. Of course, try to avoid losing more than that, but the 570 Tombstone ring might be superior over the Eden ring, but it could also be head to head, so choose whatever you have access to. Just stick with melding crit, determination, direct hit and then choose gear with the least amount of spell speed possible, while not sacrificing more than 10 points of item level or even weapon damage. The Black Mage however takes this to another level, because with big explosions comes big responsibility and movement really a big problem, so a good spell speed value can actually make your performance much more smooth and resistant to boss mechanics. So while nearly everyone is recommending to get spell speed to a comfort level, there are some out there aiming completely for spell speed. Yet in this patch there are not many options to alternate your gear, so you cannot really go all in on that stat, but of course if you're watching this in a later patch, maybe 6.3 or something like that, going nuts on spell speed might be a good way to get solid benefits for the Black Mage. So spell speed to comfort or beyond, then avoid crit if you have chosen spell speed due to the progressive nature of crit and being bad at low stat values, so then aiming for determination instead, direct hit and then crit with a spell speed build. Otherwise crit, spell speed, determination and then direct hit. It is really up to you and you cannot do anything wrong with each stat here. Alright, as this video shall primarily serve as a brief overview of initial stat distributions in Endwalker, take all this with a grain of salt, and I will update the info when we could do further testings and have more gear options with the next patches. For the time being, check out the links in the description for a really in-depth analysis, or visit the Balanced Discord to ask certain job mentors about their recommendations. Just note that weapon damage is king, followed by the stats for each job, while not sacrificing anything more than 10 points of item level. So have fun in selling your soul to make materia affordable, and if you don't have any clue about the whole system, check out my materia guide, which should still work in its basic principles, but I will also update it very soon. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving Final Fantasy.